Honestly, you're making me laugh.
Can everyone see that? Oh, you can. I can see it on my phone.
Yeah.
Thank you, Max. Thank you. Just making sure everyone's in. Right, okay, welcome to module 1 of promoting positive behaviour. I expect this module to take between sort of 50 and 70 minutes. We'll go through the first module today. We've got the second module tomorrow. On Monday, we do the third module, and then Thursday next week, we'll do the final module. I recognise that obviously it's quite tricky due to the times, so I expect you to be able to make as many as you can, and you need to then in your own time watch the videos of the recordings of the training. Um, if you do watch it via video, make sure you speak to your nursery manager, your setting manager, so that she can make a note of the times that you've done it. And I will be sending out some feedback forms that will have some questions around the training at the end of the whole of all 4 modules. So starting with module 1, understanding behaviour and behavioural theories. Early years practitioners are entrusted with shaping early experiences that lay the foundation for a child's overall development. In this module, we'll examine the concept of positive behaviour and the ideas we carry within us about what constitutes positive behaviour, ideas we've learned from our own family and wider culture, and we'll also look at key theories of behaviour. As positive behaviour is dependent on a child's emotional and social skills, it therefore follows that having a good understanding of child development, some related theories of behaviour, and how our ideas of behaviour are cultivated and they're paramount to inform everyday practice and the promotion of positive behaviour through our practice. So at the end of this module, you should be able to define what we mean by positive behaviour, common behaviours that challenge, and the reasons why we define them in this way. So the reasons that we explain them. Identify the key theories of behaviour and the implications for promoting positive behaviour in young children. So what behaviour are we expecting and why? Just have a think about what you mean, what we mean when we say positive behaviour, and just drop some ideas in the chat so that we can come together to understand what we mean by positive behaviour. Always Debbie first. So you've given me ideas of what you think positive behaviour looks like for children, but when we're saying positive behaviour, what is it we actually mean? Obviously, we've got following simple instructions, but how are we giving those instructions? How are we getting them to show that kindness and empathy? We use the golden rules. Again, these are all lovely ways that you show the children positive behaviour. So we do mirror image, we say use manners, we role model, we manage their emotions appropriately. But what is the key here to being able to do those things? Because I mean, I could tell a child to use kind hands, but what is it I'm actually doing? Name and teach emotions, showing them and asking them if they can show you how to do it. Again, you're telling me all of these lovely things that children do, showing good practice, all of that. But what is the key here? Because we can do all of those things, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we're using positive behavior reinforcement, for example. So we had ideas that include cooperation, sharing, good manners, following rules and expecting boundaries, and empathy. And they are all, we do those in a way that doesn't focus on the negative, it will focus on the positive side of things. For example, oh, I like how Leon is sharing. Well done, Zoe, for using your best manners, rather than a child who isn't using their best manners. And we would, somebody might say, oh dear, I don't like that. You're not using kind manners. Do you see the difference? So have a think about now behavior that challenges. Who's going to be first, Maz or Melissa? We had quite a lot of it today in preschool, Debbie. I'm sure you could know. Yeah. Yep, hurting themselves, tantrums, throwing. Yep, the crying, that's all part of their tantrums. Lovely, thank you. So, yep, so we've got showing aggression, hitting, kicking, biting, lack of cooperation, disruptive behaviour, defiance, bursts of anger and frustration. And I think we've all been in situations where we've had to deal with that. So, positive behaviour in the early years refers to the establishment of clear and developmentally appropriate guidelines for behaviour that promotes a positive and supportive learning environment. When children are supported by consistent boundaries and expectations, they feel safe and confident, helping them to be ready to learn. Behaviour that challenges refers to actions or conduct that deviate from our social or cultural norms that can present as a challenge. So that behaviour where their children are hitting out or they're biting, but also how we're responding to those behaviours are different from what we would expect of our children. How well adults react to this behaviour is dependent on their personal experiences as well as their social and cultural expectations. So you might have grown up in a household where it was less positive and you would be told off per se, rather than having somebody around you who would focus on the positive side of things. So as an individual, just drop a number 1 to 5 in the chat box. How confident do you feel about the strategies that you currently use in your setting to promote positive behaviour? Just drop a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1 is not confident, and 5 would be very confident. Nice. I'm liking all of these 4s. throughout the nursery? That's interesting, Carol. 3. Okay. I'm going to ask you to, as part of your homework, because it will be on the feedback form, I'm going to ask you to write down 2 things for me. One, on the reasons that you chose your number. And the second thing will be for you to write what you think would be even better. So what you're currently doing and the reason that you chose that number, and what you would like to do or what you would like to see happen to improve that. So now having a think about the strategies that you use that we use, within the setting. Again, 1 being not confident, 5 being very confident. Just drop a number in your box, in the chat box. And again, as part of your homework, I'm going to ask you to write why you chose your number and what changes you would like to see to make it even better, or better, as some might say. Thank you. So we're going to talk a little bit about what informs our ideas about behaviour, where those ideas come from. So how we respond to children's behaviour is based on our knowledge, skills and experiences, which can lead to each practitioner responding to the behaviours differently. So just do a little bit of reflection and think about how, as a child, how did you learn how to behave? How was any challenging behaviour dealt with at home and at school? And to what extent do you believe these have had an impact on how you respond in the setting? I'm just going to give you a minute to think about that. And then if you are happy to speak, you can put your hand up and we'll take you off mute and you can discuss.
Sorry, Mel, do we have to think like how when we was a child and
Yeah.
like, okay, perfect.
So as a child, when you were a child, how did you learn how to behave? How was the challenging behaviour dealt with? And to what extent do you think they've had an impact on how you respond to the children in your setting? And if you are happy to speak, you can pop your hand up. Off you go, Maz.
Well, I have South Asian parents and grew up in the 90s to parents who were born in the 60s, 70s. So it was a lot of tough love. And especially if we behaved badly, we would probably get the slap. But I think as I've grown up, I've learned a lot of things from it. Obviously, not the like occasional getting the shoe thrown at you or whatever, but it was, I think, the discipline and the tough love and the boundaries and understanding and taking accountability of what we did was wrong. I think that has helped in my educational years working with, I guess, young children and teenagers and so on. It's about obviously role modeling positive behavior, but also just showing what they did was not correct and it wasn't nice for them to take accountability because that's how they would learn per se, or you learn instead of just being like, oh, that was okay, that was nothing, it's fine. You can potentially carry on like that. So it's about being there for them emotionally and understanding them, but also allowing them and making them understand to take accountability of their wrong action, if that makes sense. So it's a bit of like love, but tough love as well.
Thank you, Maz. Does anyone else have anything they want to add? No, lovely. We've got to move on then. Thanks, Maz, for sharing. Oh, sorry, it's really tricky because I can't see the chat, so I have to use it on my phone. Lovely. Melissa's in agreement. So, I think a lot of us, as Maz said, are kind of all around the same age or slightly older. So we kind of grew up in an era where I think the phrase children should be seen and not heard was quite popular. So it may have been that, you know, the household that you grew up in was quite oppressive and you weren't always given the space and opportunities to express your views, often, but not always, based on inherited family or cultural beliefs. As I said, the children should be seen and not heard. It would depend on how our behaviour was responded to. So actually, us expressing a view could be seen as a tantrum. So cultural and societal norms mean that a child averting eye contact to show deference to an adult may be interrupted into, oh my goodness, I'll start again. A child averting eye contact to show deference to an adult may be interpreted in a negative way by someone with a different set of cultural or societal norms. So quite often you expect children to look you in the eye, but actually in some cultures, I know quite a lot in the Caribbean, looking your child in the, like looking that parent in the eye wasn't something that you always did, but it was always expected of you. So there'll be some cultures where it's acceptable not to look somebody in the eye and others where it isn't. But if you grew up in a household where it was, and you're then saying to a child who doesn't have that cultural norm to look you in the eye, it can create those differences. So the pedagogy of the setting, different settings have different norms and approaches to understanding behaviour, as we've seen from when people were selecting how they feel about their setting, it could vary quite vastly, and that is because of the way each individual has been brought up, the household that they came from. Training increases confidence and competence in dealing with behaviour that challenges us, and statutory frameworks inform the expectations for children's behaviour. Developmental theories may inform our thinking and our understanding of behaviour. Child development theories provide frameworks for understanding how children grow and change, including their behaviour. These theories can help us to understand and support children through our interactions, the environment, support mechanisms, and strategies we choose to support behaviour. We're going to look at 3 theories: 1, classical conditioning; 2, operant conditioning; 3, social learning. Classical conditioning is a theory introduced by Ion Pavlov and it was about the concept of a conditioned response. So a conditioned response would be when a child is taught that when I say this, this is how you respond. So the process demonstrated by Pavlov's experiments with dogs highlights how associations can shape behaviour. Operant conditioning by Skinner focused on the consequences of behaviour and suggested that behaviour can be strengthened or weakened based on the consequences. For example, pleasant consequences mean that the behaviour is more likely to be reproduced, while no consequences or reactions lead to the behaviour being weakened or eliminated. That kind of touches on what Maz was saying before about how, you know, if you don't explain to a child or ask a child to expect a child to take accountability, then what Skinner is saying is that those consequences can either mean that the behavior is more likely to happen again or it will just stop. Social learning theory by Bandura emphasizes learning by observation and the role of modeling behavior, proposing that people acquire new behaviors by observing others and imitating them. So I think that focuses a lot on what we try to do within the setting. Through modeling, we expect a child to then be conditioned in a way that we deem to be appropriate. Classical conditioning helps explain some of our emotional responses to people, environments, or events. For example, the smell of coconut may remind us of a lovely holiday, evoking warm, positive feelings, whilst the sight of cod liver oil bottle may make us nauseous. My mum has always told me stories of how she used to have, like, she was force-fed cod liver oil as a liquid as a child. So I can imagine that she could relate to that. Any phobias we have are thought to be as a result of classical conditioning. For example, fear of spiders brought about as a result of witnessing a powerful negative response to spiders from a parent or carer. In these instances, we are making association between the object, the stimuli, and the positive or negative feelings it brings about. This type of learned behavior was first extensively studied by Ian Pavlov, who conducted experiments with dogs. He noticed the dogs began salivating before the arrival of food. They had learned to associate with the footsteps of the people bringing the food with eating food. To test his idea, he began to ring a bell directly prior to bringing the food, and he found that the dogs learned this association too, salivating in preparation for eating simply at the sound of the bell. What have salivating dogs got to do with children, I hear you ask? Please, get ready. John B. Watson took Pavlov's theory and demonstrated that it works on humans too. He experimented on a 9-month-old called Albert. Watson introduced various real objects, a monkey, fire, a rabbit, and a rat, to Albert, and he demonstrated some interest in watching, known as a neutral response. However, when a loud noise was introduced with the objects, it triggered a reflexive fear response, and Albert cried and turned away. Albert learned to be afraid, associating the object with the loud noise that induced a feeling of fear. Children thrive on predictable routines. Therefore, we can associate particular activities or times of the day with positive experiences. For example, singing a soothing song at nap time to help associate for the children the music with relaxation. The transition to sleep became smoother. Critics argue that classical conditioning is too simplistic. Humans are more complex, especially young children who are developing cognitive abilities. Children are not passive learners, and their behavior is influenced by internal motivations rather than external rewards or punishments. This is why giving out stickers for desired behavior only works for a limited time and does not work on children. Classical conditioning treats everyone the same and doesn't account for the uniqueness of children with their diverse backgrounds and experiences. Classical conditioning should be used carefully in shaping the behaviour of young children. A more holistic approach that considers cognitive, emotional, and social aspects of learning is more appropriate to foster well-rounded behavioural development in young children. We will now go on to look at the theory of operant conditioning. Operant conditioning is a concept developed by B.F. Skinner, building on the work of Pavlov that has an impact on our understanding of children's behaviour. Operant conditioning emphasises the importance of reinforcement and revolves around the idea that behaviours are influenced by their consequences, which can either encourage or discourage repetition of that behaviour. This is where the viewpoint focus on the positive and not the negative comes from. For example, if a child gets a lot of attention for behaving in such a way that the attention is removed, the behavior may become extinct because it isn't being reinforced. So, for example, if you've got two children sitting on the carpet, one child isn't sitting with the desired behavior that you would like them to have, but another child is expressing that desired behavior. Instead of asking the child who's not sitting properly to sit how you would like them to sit, you might choose to, or I personally enjoy choosing to, praise the child who is showing and modelling the correct behaviour. The timing and consistency of the reinforcement are crucial, as immediate consequences are more effective in creating associations between the behaviour and the consequence. For example, praising a child at the end of the day for managing to put their coat on in the morning is not going to have the same impact as immediate praise when the event occurred. Operant conditioning in an early years setting can help shape how we respond to children's behaviour. If a child is learning to put on a coat, then you might reinforce with praise and encouragement each small step of the process until they master the entire process. Good job, you've put your hood on. Then you might say, good job, you've put your arms in your sleeves. Understanding and applying operant conditioning principles will potentially help to ensure a positive environment. The positive reinforcement creates an encouraging and supportive environment, promoting positive behaviour and a love for learning. Consistency is key. Learning is more effective when children can predict the consequences of their actions. For example, if behaviour is only reinforced once in a while, then it is unlikely to be effective. Each child is unique, and what works well for one child may not work for other. Adaptations will always be required, so making sure you have an individual approach. Engage parents with using the strategies so that there is a consistency between home and nursery. Understanding these principles can help us to create positive, nurturing, and effective learning environments that guide children towards positive behaviour and discourage behaviours that challenge. Social learning theory was developed by Albert Bandura, and it emphasises observational learning, imitation, and modelling of the development of behaviour. It suggests that cognitive processes play a role as children have the capacity to pay attention to the model, so they're able to pay attention to the modeler, retain observed behaviour in their memory, and then be motivated to reproduce that behaviour. However, we have our innate human drive to rely on for motivation. So the attention is then retained. So when you give them the good positive feedback, they retain the attention, they then replicate that, and then they are motivated to be able to do it themselves. Children imitate the behaviours they observe. We witness this clearly in their role play. Imitation contributes to the acquisition of new skills. Bandura demonstrated in his famous Bobo doll experiment that children copied the aggressive behaviour toward the doll that they had witnessed in adults, emphasising the importance of practitioners as role models for behaviour. Children learn societal norms, values, and what is considered acceptable behaviour from those around them, which is why practitioners should find out about children's background and heritage to understand their values and behaviour norms. So for us, role models are an important part of positive behaviour. For example, regulating ourselves in stressful situations within the setting before we respond, modelling the language to express our emotions. Encouraging the repetition of positive behaviour by providing children with positive reinforcement of behaviours which are acceptable. So making sure that we tell children when they are doing that great thing rather than stop children who are doing that negative thing. A nurturing, supportive environment encourages positive interactions and cooperation with others. Recognizing children's uniqueness, children come with their own set of norms and may respond differently based on their experiences, background. For example, using manners such as saying please and thank you is a British cultural norm, but that may not necessarily be a cultural norm for another child within our setting. Involving parents to help maintain consistency in expectations between home and nursery. So, for example, if you've got a child who isn't ready to or is learning how to say please and thank you, then making sure that when you're doing your handovers to your parents, you explain today we're working on our please and thank yous, or this week we're working on our please and thank yous. Can you please help them to do that at home? Social learning theory can provide us with insights into a child's behaviour, and effective application can contribute to their social and emotional development, therefore promoting positive behaviour. Does anybody have any questions? If you do, feel free to take yourself off of mute and chime in. If not, we shall go ahead with the self-assessment. Okay, so we've just got a couple of questions to close out the module, just to check what our understanding is so far. If you could please, I'll label them 1, 2, 3, and 4. If you could please let me know in the comments using the numbers for all questions. Views about what constitutes positive behaviour can be informed by 1, professional experience, 2, personal beliefs, 3, knowledge of child development, 4, cultural and societal norms. And it's to click all that apply. So as many as you agree with, just drop them in the chat for me, please. Or say all. We've got 1, 3, and 4. Someone, Avisa said 2.
Repeat the question because I can't see it on the screen. It's fuzzy.
Oh, sorry. Is it fuzzy for everybody?
It's probably just for me and my internet's
Oh,
playing
actually,
up.
no, that page is quite fuzzy. I see what you're saying.
No, I can't really
okay.
see it either.
Quite blurred.
Yeah, it is quite blurry. It's clear as day on my screen. Can I?
What's number 2? What does number 2 say?
Number 2 says personal beliefs. So you've got number 1, professional experience. Number 2, personal beliefs. Number 3, knowledge of child development. Number 4, societal norms.
I'd say 1 and 3.
Most people think a couple 1 and 3. Carol said all. It's all of them. So if you remember at the start, they said your professional experience. So that's your knowledge, your level of training, the amount of CPD that you do around positive behaviour, but also your level of qualification, because what the way early years qualifications are done, they're scaffolded, aren't they? So if you have a level 2 and you don't have any CPD and you've only worked in one setting, your professional experience is going to be very different from somebody who has a level 4 or 5, for example, and has got 10 years worth of experience. So fill in the missing words. Here are the options: music, conditioning, active, simplistic, difficult, complex, and passive. So as a theory, classical, what do you think the first word is going to be?
Music, I think. I don't know. Don't know. As a
Could be
theory,
conditioning.
conditioning.
Classical,
Oh wait, yeah.
It's classical conditioning, isn't it? Surely.
As a theory, classical conditioning is too difficult, complex, simplistic.
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 Children are not complex learners and are more
active. Is it active or passive? Have we done passive? Active learners? Yeah.
So we're
As a
saying one
theory,
is conditioning.
condition.
Yeah.
As a theory, conditioning.
If you disagree, now's the time.
As a theory.
So as a theory, classical conditioning is
Two.
Simplistic.
Yeah, because that was one of the conditions, simplistic. Yeah, I think Jenny's right. Yeah.
Children are not.
So as
Good
a
to be
theory,
heard.
classical conditioning is too simplistic. Children are not complex learners.
And are more active, or would it be passive? I think it would be active and not passive. I'm not sure.
I'm going to give you all a minute to read that, and if you think it should be something else, drop the words in the chat.
Yeah, because one of the
I
criticisms for
don't know why
classical
I'm stuck
conditioning
between
was,
passive and active.
yeah, I think the simplistic is right, like Jenny said, because one of the criticisms was classical conditioning is too simplistic. I think we're
Because
right,
it's
actually.
not meeting a unique child's needs, but then it's the passive
I
active
f-
bit.
I think the complex and active are the other way around.
So children are not
So with
active
what Jenny's
learners, but
saying,
are
it would
complex.
be, as a theory, classical conditioning is too simplistic. Children are active learners and are more complex.
That makes so much more sense.
Dun, dun, dun. Partly correct. So here, so all of the rest were right. Children are more
Difficult. So is it different?
Is it
Difficult.
passive?
Passive
yeah,
then.
yeah. Children are more passive learners. They're passive learners and they're more complex than we recognise. Hence why classical conditioning is considered to be simplistic. According to social learning theory, children learn exclusively through their own direct experiences without the influence of observation and modelling from others. True or false? T or F in the comments, please. According to social learning theory, children learn exclusively through their own direct experiences without the influence of observation and modelling from others.
think it's false.
Carol, do you want to share with us why you think it's false? If you want to take your mic off. If you don't, then you can type. Or Maz, why do you think it's false?
Because I think so this is social learning theory. So I'm just think that children learn exclusively through their own direct experience without influence. I don't think children actually learn. Now I'm reading the question. Oh my God. I said false because I think that the children do learn through influence, through I guess through what they see from within their own households, or how their parents are with them, and that's how they are with others. So I believe it's false because how others model it or are modeling in front of them, they learn through that because they're young and they're children and they learn from actual hand-on experience. But
yeah. So Carol said the same as well, because they learn through observation, their environments, their parents, their peers. But what is the question asking you? According to social learning theory, do children learn exclusively through their own direct experiences? If you still think it's false, we'll go ahead with false. If you think it's anything different, let's discuss.
Give us a minute. Is it a trick question? I honestly don't know. I still think it's false, but I don't know.
I think my favorite thing is whenever we come to the questions at the end, we do so much thinking, and I think we end up overthinking it. Yeah.
Why do we overthink all of these sessions?
Every time. The statement for social learning theory. Social learning theory, developed by Bandura, emphasizes observational learning, imitation, and modeling in the development of behavior. It suggests that cognitive processes play a role as children have the capacity to pay attention to the model, retain the observed behavior in their memory, and then be motivated to reproduce that behavior. However, we have our own innate human drive to rely on for motivation. Maz, listen to the first sentence. Social learning theory emphasizes observational learning, imitation, and modeling. According to social learning theory, children learn exclusively through their own direct experiences without influence of observation and modeling from others.
It's false.
It's false.
It's false.
Correct. It's false. But it's honestly, it's one of my favorite things, because you all then start thinking and then we're looking into it. But just be careful with what we're being asked, because we all knew the answer, we all had the idea, but were we relating that to social theory in the beginning? Not so much. So thank you, Carol, for asking to see the statement again. Our ideas and about how a child should or should not behave in a setting are informed by a combination of factors, including our own family background, personal beliefs, cultural and societal norms, professional experiences, and the principles and theories of early childhood education. We've looked at a number of different theories to help us gain a more comprehensive understanding of behaviour through cognitive development, social interactions, and the environment. And that is the end of module 1. So, if I stop sharing? Does anyone have any questions? Just pop your hand up if you do. No? If you could please do those 2 pieces of homework for me and share your answers with your manager, your setting manager, who I will follow up with at the end of the week. So if you can have the 2 answers as to why you chose those original numbers in terms of your confidence levels, and why you chose those 2 numbers for the strategies that you use to promote positive behaviour, and also what you would like to see happen, so the changes that you would like to make. If you don't have any questions, thank you very much for joining us. I shall see you tomorrow. Tomorrow's session is at 5 o'clock. And again, if you're unable to make that session because you are working and you're in numbers, please make sure you watch the video, because there will be further homework alongside it too. So you will need to follow up with your manager. Thank you all for coming. You can go and live your best evening life before you have to get up for work tomorrow. Good night, everybody.
Thanks,
Bye.
Mel.
Bye.
Thank you.